Welcome to Bundy Group Insights, where industry expertise meets experience. This podcast is your ultimate guide to the intricate world of mergers and acquisitions, capital raises, and economic trends. Let's get started.
Hi, this is Clint Bundy, Managing Director with Bundy Group, and joining me today is Stewart Carlin, Managing Director with Bundy Group. Stewart, how's it going?
All good. Excited for another great BG Insights topic. I think it'll be an interesting one for our listeners.
Yeah, it's been a while since you and I've done one of these, so it's good to be back at it with you. And it's October 2024. How's the fall foliage up there in New York, Long Island?
Full bloom, as you can tell. You know, the winter beard's coming back. Getting a little bit colder up here. Got the vest on. You know, nice logo. Thank you, Clint. No, it's a great time of year up here. Kids love being outside. We love being outside. We're probably a couple weeks away from all the leaves falling off, but yeah, you'll have to come up here one of these days.
Too cold for laps on the Long Island Sound, I'm assuming.
Yeah, you don't. If you're into cold plunging, which good benefits there. Great time of year for that, but not quite the temperatures to go out and play on the water. How about Charlotte? How are things there?
We're a little behind you guys on the fall foliage, but we're catching up. Great. So it's getting warm enough to wear cold enough, to wear jeans. So that's good.
Yeah, perfect.
Well, Stuart, our topic today is near and dear to our hearts, which is specialization for investment banking, or to use another term, for the mergers and acquisitions advisory profession, which we are in. And to be more specific, we're talking about the importance of investment banks having demonstrated industry specialization. So thank you for helping me educate our BG Insights listeners today on this. Two comments before we get into this. One is we're going to go with a punch list or lightning round-ish format. I think that'll be most efficient for us. And two, use as many hockey analogies as you like today.
It's baseball time, World Series. I'll try and work some of those in, but hockey season did start. So no, that all sounds great. Why don't, before we dive right into the meat of it, you want to give us, just for our listeners, brief refresher, Bundy Group, who we are, what we do?
Yeah, I think you've just kind of teed it up well before we get into our topic today of specialization for investment banking, the investment banking profession, or if you want to use the term, the mergers and acquisitions advisory profession. Let me just kind of help educate or remind our listeners about, kind of who we are and what we do, which is Bundy Group as an investment bank represents business owners and management teams and companies and business sales, capital raises, and acquisitions. So at the end of the day, almost all the time, we are representing an owner who is seeking some kind of exit or capital event, and we're focused on achieving two main objectives, again, in almost every situation for them. And that's one, delivering value for our client, i.e. helping them to optimize value, and two, helping them find the best fit. And we're usually doing this in the form of a competitive process. And so, Stuart, I guess we should point out to our listeners, we've got several other good Bundy Group Insights episodes about the competitive process and about the investment banking profession, which I'd encourage our listeners to go check out. But Stuart, for today, I'm gonna be the guy tossing out a lot of questions to you and let you knock them out of the park. I've got two rules of thumb here. One, just because we're going to try to keep this to kind of a 15 to 20 minute-ish podcast. One is we'll kind of go punch list or lightning round-ish format, if that works for you. And two, I expect you to use as many hockey analogies as possible.
World Series time, maybe baseball.
Well, that's true. And the Yankees are in the World Series, are they not?
They are.
So, okay, well, good. Well, let me, now that we've kind of set the table here with who Bundy Group is and what we do, let me start with, Stuart, what is a generalist in investment banking terms?
Do you want to re-record the intro? Just because I kind of jumped early in with tell us about Bundy Group.
Yeah, we could do it. And then John can take a look at both.
Yeah, he can look at both. And I paused So he's got
Yeah.
like a hard stop as you asked the first question.
I did, by the way, even though you did that, I still thought it worked okay.
Okay. If you thought it was good, that's fine. I
I,
just wanted to do a hard pause in case we wanted to.
I mean, you and I are, I mean, we're, I mean, if I thought it was big enough, I didn't think it was a screw up. I thought it was just, okay, you kind of did this and I kind of did that. It kind of looked
Yeah.
kind of like a sincere conversation, to be honest.
Yeah. Perfect. All right.
So I didn't have an issue with it. We'll let John listen to it and you and I can listen to it. And if we don't like it, we'll come back and just record that intro.
That'd be the beginning. Okay. Perfect.
So otherwise
I'll let you
yeah,
pose.
yeah, why don't I do this? So John, I'm going to re-ask this question again. So pick back up from effectively here. So Stewart, just to get us started, uh, why don't you please define for us what a generalist is in investment banking terms?
I've been thinking about this question, and been thinking there's a couple different ways to answer that. So I'm going to try and give both fairly succinctly. So if I'm laying out kind of the list of criteria by comparison with a specialist, what I'm going to say is, well, first, they're not going to be focused on any one industry. They might be focused on a geography, a region, but they're fielding anything that comes through the door. A lot of times they're not thoughtfully curating a buyer list. It's, hey, I've got methods to broadcast these deals out to market. I'm not going to focus on a whole bunch of materials. I'm just going to try and take it. I'm going to try and get it prepared as much as I can, and I'm going to blast it out to the universe and see how it goes. The second piece to that, and this was a little more philosophical, there are some generalist investment banks that they're either learning the industry throughout the process. And then I think there are others that would probably fall into the category of they're not really interested in gaining a deep understanding of clients' business drivers. They're focused more on moving deals along. So, there's the side-by-side comparison, and then I think there's the more approach, but end of the day, a generalist is going to be kind of servicing anything and everything that comes in. I think there's different categories. Clint, I know maybe a good example. I know when you were with Wachovia's M&A group, you guys certainly learned the business and the industries and had great capabilities, but would you have thought of yourself a little more as a generalist in that chair than industry specialist?
Well, good question. I'm going to actually get not one, but two kind of case studies here. One is to your question, when I was in my corporate investment banking days in the mergers and acquisitions group of Wachovia, you could be sitting there and your staffer or your managing director will come and say, hey, we've got a pitch coming up in 2 weeks. It's for a firm in the widget manufacturing space. We've never even pitched a company in that space before, much less done a deal in that space. You got 2 weeks to get up to speed on the industry, get up to speed on the company, get a pitch together, get a good understanding of the buyers and valuation multiples, and then hand off the pitch deck to me. And you and I are going to go meet with the potential client, and we're going to try to do our darndest to appear to be experts in that space in a 2-week time frame. That happened more times than I care to count. And that would happen, frankly, many times a week or a month, which did put me in the generalist camp in my M&A group, which could cover a range of industries. Now, the good news is ultimately what happened to me is I ended up doing a lot of pitches within certain segments of healthcare and then tech-enabled services. So while I was still in a generalist group, whether it was by design or by accident, I got channeled into some industry specialties. And each time I kept doing work on those pitches and then ultimately on those deals, I got smarter and better on those industries. The second thing I'll let our listeners know is that for Bundy Group's really first kind of 15 or 20 years, we were, to use your term, Stewart, a generalist. And, what that meant for us is we had a lot more of a focus around geography, around referral partners and companies in a certain geography, which meant that, the downside was we had to, like I did in Wawa Kobe days, get smart on a lot of different companies that we had no background in their industries, and that took us a lot of time and energy and what have you. The upside for us now that we're 35 years in business is now we do have a lot of experience in a lot of different industries, but it's a long slog to get to that point. So I hope those are two fair case studies for me to use.
Yeah, no, great. I think a couple different perspectives, and certainly doesn't mean um, the job can't be done, right? But I guess I know we're going to get to the topic of why hire a specialist versus a generalist. So I'll save some commentary for then.
Yeah, well, you just teed me up well for my next question to you. Uh, With that foundation, tell us what an industry specialist is in the investment banking industry. How can you, if you're a business owner or you're an executive and you're in need of a good investment banking advisor, how can you tell if a firm is a specialist in an industry? What are the telltale signs? Because to be honest with you, whether they are actually a specialist or not, almost all investment banks, when they get in front of a potential client, are going to try to pitch themselves as a specialist. So give us some insights there.
Yeah, so I think part one of the question was how do you tell if a firm is a specialist? And for me, I think a couple of the low hanging fruit items. One, team members, individuals that are dedicated to particular areas of coverage. You can go on websites, have conversations. Where you see things. Like managing director of dermatology and aesthetics or healthcare services or industrial tech. I mean, those are all subtle cues that, hey, you have people focused on specific verticals within the industry. Of course, another easy one, transaction experience, looking at what tombstones they have on their website. I would say in today's world, tombstones don't necessarily always translate to level of experience, if you will, but you want to see a closed deal track record, and that's certainly important. And then I think some of the more subtleties to look for in how do you tell if an investment bank is a specialist is you want to look at the messaging on their website. Are they drilling down on industry verticals and niches within that vertical? So not just saying, hey, I'm a specialist in healthcare. Healthcare is a massively broad market, and doing a pharma services deal is way different than doing a physician practice management deal. So what do they talk about on their website? If you go through their news and their content, are they writers, contributors to publications, to industry groups? What trade shows are they going? Those are, I would say, are a lot of the next level outside of team and tombstones that can help you tell whether or not a bank is a specialist. And then I think part two of that question. What is an industry specialist in the investment banking industry? For me, I think what it really comes down to is that, proprietary information, proprietary knowledge, understanding the industry, the value drivers within that industry, a deeper understanding of positioning points for bringing a company to market, understanding what drives valuation and what a business could be potentially achieve from a fair market or a premium range. So I think that proprietary information piece is really what separates the specialist from the generalist.
Yeah, no, I think those are great comments. And only thing I'll add to that is the team. I mean, at the end of the day, and we're, first of all, we're lucky. We've got a first class team in our organization. But if you're you're an owner or you're a CEO, and you're evaluating investment banking advisors, it's all about the person across the table who you're talking to in terms of an investment banker, that individual, their specific background on working on transactions in an industry, And we're proud to say, and Stuart, you're a great example of your work, not just in the healthcare industry from an investment banking perspective, but also from an operations perspective, which means that it's kind of like industry specialization squared, as I would call it. And so those are key things I would encourage any owner or executive to drill down on. Don't just look at the logos on a piece of paper, but look at the profile of the person, the investment banker that you're talking to, and find out, well, what do they really know and what's their background?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
So, let's elaborate on this a little bit more. Pretending you're an owner, you're ramping up for sale process. Uh, what is it that if you hire the right banker, the investment banker, what are they going to be able to do for you as in the company in the sale process based on that specialization?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it ties into that proprietary institutional knowledge piece. I always kind of start there. So as you're covering an industry vertical, positioning deals in market, you get to know all the ins and outs of what is meaningful for your process, what data is meaningful, how to effectively tell the story to the marketplace, the good and the bad, how to position around. I know the buyer piece is going to be critical here as well too. And the buyer Rolodex, specialists are spending an astronomical amount of time in conversation with buyers that are tackling specific industry verticals. And I think this is probably more relevant today than it has been ever, because as we've seen in both our work in healthcare and tech services, buyers are becoming very disciplined in what they will invest in and what they won't invest in. And so the benefit of a specialist in that industry is we know all of the nuances of what buyers are looking for, what they aren't. That helps when it comes to crafting a high quality buyer list, making sure that we're positioning around the right points to protect against any kind of retrades or unnecessary, I'll say, dings in valuation. And then also, I think a little bit more simply put, those buyers, they're incentivized to put a good foot forward on deals with industry specialists because they're seeing deals again and again and again from them. So they don't want to get that bad reputation as a buyer, because it means the opportunities that they're looking at ultimately dry up at some point.
Yeah, boy, those are some great points. And it's our fiduciary is to the seller. Our obligation is get the best outcome for the seller. But we do get to know these buyers really well, to the point that, their CEOs have our cell numbers. We're talking to them on weekends about opportunities and deals. And the buyer, as you and I know, Stuart, they'll look to us for insights on a deal, and they'll say, well, tell me why I should buy this because I trust you guys. Why is this a fit for me? And when we say, hey, if you want to get a great outcome here, I get this under LOI and get this deal closed, you're going to have to pay a little bit more. And here's why. And you and I have heard it before from numerous buyers who said, if this were an investment bank that I probably would never encounter again on another deal, I wouldn't listen to that. But because I know I'm going to see you guys on another deal, because I want to see more opportunities from you guys, yeah, I'm going to be willing to put that foot forward. So I'm really glad you kind of hit that Rolodex theme. Buyer front.
Yeah, and I think just something else came to mind as you were talking about it. Even at a higher level, some of the comments you made. Keep in mind there are a lot of deals in the market today, right? And so a first step is just getting a buyer to look at a teaser in an NDA. And so, as a specialist in front of these buyers all the time, when they see an email come through from Clint Bundy or Stuart Carlin, they're going to say, oh, hey, I know those guys. I call them for advice on deals that they're not involved on. I see them at trade shows all the time. I hear their voice and see their messaging in, podcasts and articles, et cetera, et cetera. They're an industry leader, a thought leader. So I'm going to take a look at what they're showing because I know they're not going to put something in front of me that's, a low quality asset. Right. And so I think that makes a difference too, because at the end of the day, when you do take a deal to market, you are not only trying to create competition amongst the buyer pool, but you have to compete against the other deals that these buyers are looking at as well too.
Yeah, no, great points. Well, I'm a case study guy, so I'd say you do one, I'll do one. You go
Okay.
first.
All right. I'm going to pick, I'm going to force you to, to do a controls and automation case study. So I'll pick something from another vertical. We closed a behavioral health deal, BCPS acronym we referred to, sold that to a strategic buyer earlier this year. We were hired through a attorney referral because of our expertise in healthcare and behavioral health more specifically. And really, I think that the reason for that is a fewfold. One, there's a lot of unique regulatory situations when it comes to deals within the behavioral health space. Two, there's a lot of nuances to behavioral health deals. So behavioral health, some people think of that as, oh, that's a pretty defined niche within healthcare. It's really not, because there's a whole host of, I'll say, sub criteria, sub niches within that. For BCPS, this was an ABA therapy deal. And you think, wow, that's specialized. Well, guess what? This was an ABA therapy deal that was a clinic focused model and an at home focused model, not really a school-based model. And there are buyers out there that only want to see school-based models, or they only want to see clinic-based models, but they don't want an at-home component to it. And so when you start to peel back the onion, you very quickly realize, wow, it's important to understand all of the nuances of not only how to get the right buyers involved, but how to effectively position this business. What kind of metrics and information do we need to incorporate in a data room, in our marketing materials, to get buyers excited about it in order to accomplish our two primary goals of maximizing value and maximizing fit. So in the case of BCPS, we were brought in because of that industry expertise. I would say one of the things that Bundy Group does exceptionally well and separates us against a lot of other specialist investment banks out there is we really roll up our sleeves to make sure that we are understanding these businesses almost as well as the founder. A number of people on our team, myself included, we have sat both on the operations CFO side of the table, as well as the transaction M&A advisory side of the table. We use that perspective to make sure that the data is of highest quality so buyers can get a good assessment of risk, that we are getting out in front of things we need to position around so that we can build a strategy and a negotiating position of strength, so that as we get the right buyers in the mix with the right story and the right data, we can really push value. In the case of BCPS, I think we were well over double the expectation that our clients had, and it's a great outcome, great pairing. Behavioral framework and BCPS, they'll work really nicely together. There's a lot of common themes in terms of how they think about ABA therapy and delivering those services. So a little bit long-winded there, but felt it was all important. Clint, I'll kick it over to you for maybe a controls and automation case study.
Yeah, no, the BCPS was great client, and we did get hired and because of our specialization, and we got the deal done because of our specialization.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I'm going to pick Automation. That was a client that's an automation solutions firm and material handling solutions firm headquartered in Michigan. Richard and Jackie Canny were the owners. They had a great management team in place, very high growth company. Richard was and Jackie were very transparent with us early on, which is we're interviewing more than one investment bank. We had probably what ended up being about a 1 year kind of relationship building cycle with them, where we gave them a lot of advice, thoughts, uh, and at the same time, of course, I'm sure they were probably picking the brain of the other firms. But ultimately, we were hired uh, because Richard just quite simply said, "You guys know your stuff backwards and forwards about my industry. You've sold companies exactly like mine. And the other firms I'm talking to just can't stand toe to toe with you." And I think Richard said, indicated to me that when he informed the other firms that they wouldn't be getting the nod, that they effectively said, "What do we have to do to get hired? We'll do anything." And he was, to our benefit, he said nothing, because the guys I'm going to hire are the right ones based off their background and specialization to get this deal done. And we were lucky to have had them as a client. And not only did it get us hired, but then it helped us get a great outcome for them. And just for our listeners, you can listen to my interview with Richard Canny and another Bundy Group Insights video and podcast. But these are two great ones to flag. And God, we could keep going for another 30 minutes. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
we're starting to bump up against some time limits here, but I'm going to let's jump right to some takeaways. And again, for our Bundy Group Insight listeners, owners and executives, and referral partners out there, give me your punchline.
Yeah, so I'll try and tick off a couple, and I'll kick it back over to you. So, generalists versus specialists. Do they have and are gaining a deep understanding of your business, or are they out broadcasting this to largely widespread net? Are they bringing value added advice to how to prepare for a process and how to be successful throughout a process? Or are they putting the pieces in place, run into market, and kind of seeing what happens? Those are really kind of a couple of key points that resonate with me: specialists versus generalists. Of course, remembering that from a specialty angle, you're going to have a huge advantage because of the proprietary and institutional knowledge of both how to position businesses in market, what buyers to have involved, what motivates those buyers. And certainly, I think that helps us translate to successful outcomes in both, value and fit. Clint, how about you? What are your key takeaways?
I'll just I'm going to just add two. One, it's about, as I said this earlier, it's about the person across the table in front of you, the investment banker who you're talking to. What is their background? What are they messaging to you directly? Can they answer the tough questions about your industry? Or do they have to say, "Well, I'll get back to you 10 different times," and you ask them industry specific questions? So it is about the person across the table. And also, candidly, if you're an owner and you're interviewing an investment bank, they should be able to give you names, cell numbers of past clients they've worked with, of companies in your industry or in a related industry. And the investment banker should be able to say, "Hey, call Richard Canny type, or call a Jason from BCPS type. They'll tell you about our work. They'll tell you about our pedigree. They'll tell you why they hired us." So I think those are, just a couple added points. And gosh, Stewart, this is a good one, man. Let's not wait too long to do the next one of these. Okay.
Yeah. One last question. Yankees or Dodgers? Who's winning game one?
Well, I'm based in North Carolina, and I grew up a Braves fan, so it makes it really tough for me to root for the Yankees. But I'm not really excited about the Dodgers. My son has turned into a Phillies fan. I'm not sure how that happened. I think I'm going to go, because you're our New York office, I think I'm going to root for the Yankees.
All right. I like it.
I'm assuming you're a Yankees guy, right?
I'm actually a big Mets fan. We were really excited about how deep they ran, but got to stay true to, the New York angle. So hopefully they get it done.
Well, enjoy it. All right, Stewart. Well, thanks again.
Yeah. Thanks, Clint.
Before we conclude, an essential reminder: Bundy Group Securities, LLC, an affiliated entity of Bundy Group, is a registered broker-dealer and a member of FINRA and SIPC. Please note, that Bundy Group and Bundy Group Securities do not provide any financial, legal, economic, accounting, investment, or tax advice through this program. Neither Bundy Group nor its affiliates make any representation or warranty regarding the accuracy of the information provided in this content series, and the content provided does not constitute a recommendation. This content should not be copied or published without the expressed written consent of Bundy Group.